Mr. Ben Roberts, the Group Chief Technical and Information Officer for Liquid Telecom, and Mr. Andrew Alston, who's the Group IP Strategy Director for Liquid Telecom. Jointly, we are co-authors of the proposal on anti-shutdown. And just to get us started, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to a country where we have a government that is open, that is accommodative, that has worked with TESPOC for the last 18 years to create an environment that is conducive for business and end users alike. TESPOC is a founding member of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance that has taken a lead role in developing ICT policy and other policy as well, in collaboration with government ministries where we take a leading role and are able to have bi-monthly meetings, roundtable ministerial meetings, quarterly presidential roundtable discussions, state policy retreats, National Assembly policy retreats, which go a long way in enabling us to begin such a controversial discussion in this country. Because we know for a fact, if we would have been possibly in another African country, our colleagues would probably be harassed by the state or really intimidated. But we're in a country where the government is open and welcome to input, feedback, and ideas, and I want you to be as free and open as possible in terms of giving us feedback to this proposal. And so, if we can just look at what this proposal is trying to solve. In summary, the problem being addressed by the proposal is to curb internet shutdowns that cause economic damage and hurt the citizens of the affected countries. And how does this proposal intend to address this? It starts off with a very draconian far end of the line proposal, cognizant of the fact that the community needs to discuss and come closer to a middle ground that is conducive for both the technical community and the government so that we can have an agreement on how, if we have to have internet shutdowns, how they should be handled, and if at all we need the internet shutdowns. Though the position of the proposal is that we do not want those internet shutdowns. So what are we saying? What does this mean in terms of the Afrinic policy development process? It means that we have tabled an idea which is pretty much what it is, and this I'm stating for the members of the fourth estate so that we are clear. We are tabling an idea. It is not yet a proposal, and it needs to be discussed and to determine how it moves forward. And so basically we have defined internet shutdowns as a government order blocking access to the general internet. And this is not the content that governments under their normal laws will block because of the special circumstances in which these countries find themselves. It is really the content that it is the content that, irrespective of its source or nature, is blocked from the citizens. And a partial shutdown we have defined as the communication mechanisms where you find countries block certain content like WhatsApp, social media, voice traffic, etc., which is outside of the standing law of that country. And so with that definition of internet shutdowns, we are proposing a mechanism of how shutdowns will be handled in terms of there has to be a confirmation that there is an actual shutdown. There has to be an appeal from a community member to investigate that shutdown. And in our proposal, we are proposing that the Afrinic Governance Committee considers such requests when they arise and develop appropriate mechanisms if it is agreeable with the community to address that. There are entities that we have exempted from this policy proposal, and the action of this proposal is not intended for academia and all educational institutions, irrespective of their relationship with the governments concerned. The target is pretty much government entities in which the state holds more than 50% shareholding. And in the for existing IP address, Afrinic should not participate in any such transfer. And thirdly, All suballocations of space within the said countries involving the entities that are referred to in the earlier part of the proposal will experience exclusion from the academia, that's from academia and educational institutions. In the event of a government performing 3 or more shutdowns in a period of 10 years, then we are proposing that the resources should be revoked. So in a nutshell, that's the proposal, but my colleague Ben will explain the rationale.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Roberts. It's probably my first time presenting a policy proposal at Afrinic. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for Liquid Telecom Group. We have the largest fibre network spanning 40,000 kilometres across Africa, supporting the internet and its rollout. We're also, as such, one of the biggest investors in Africa in inter-country internet infrastructure. And if I go to our website, a mission statement, put simply, we connect people. We started out by questioning the way things are done and being single-minded in our determination to improve them. Everything we do is driven by a simple yet powerful belief that everyone in Africa has the right to be connected. Over the last decade, this vision has helped us change the face of communications in the region. We're also one of the co-sponsors here today, and we're providing Wi-Fi for this event. And I want to illustrate a point here. So I'm going to turn off that Wi-Fi, and I turn off the internet Wi-Fi in this room. Why am I doing that? I'm doing that to illustrate a point that I have the power to turn off the internet in this room. And I'm going to abuse that power. I'm going to abuse that power because I'd like you all to listen to me rather than being on your laptops and communicating with people. So in that abuse of power, only you can communicate, only you can listen to me, and you can't communicate with other people. You can't get access to other sources of information. I'm the only voice you're going to hear. So Robert at the back, please shut down the Wi-Fi, shutting off the internet. And this is the demonstration you see on the screen as taking place now, and I hope it works. Not all internet shutdowns are as successful as they're intended to be.
For members, you are actually denying the same access you are claiming that you want to provide. Take note of that. You are further defragmenting. Wounding, if I use that word. You're not wounding government, you're actually helping them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Excuse me, Marcus.
Round robin, that side, thank you. Okay, while we wait for that to be sorted out, Marcus, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Marcus from University of Ghana. This time I'm speaking on my own behalf. I have questions, and then through that, I'll come with suggestions. I haven't read the staff analysis part. I heard that it is not implementable. I would like the staff to confirm that it's really implementable or not, whether they've put it there, please.
Rainier Mary, I'd like to flip the conversation around based on the discussion we had yesterday. So instead of focusing on governments that are shutting down the internet, why not reward governments that keep the internet up? I'm not sure what the situation was in Cameroon, why after 94 days the president decided, okay, the internet should come back on, but I suspect it was because of the campaign that was initially started in Cameroon, Bring Back the Internet, which then got picked up by Access Now, and representations were made to the UN special rapporteur. So African leaders like to keep face. So the effective campaign on Twitter and maybe in the corridors of power at the UN seem to be more effective in getting him to turn the internet back on. So why not focus on those governments that do keep the internet on for their population?
Thank you. That's fine. Marcus, please, please wait. They will reply your question. Please wait. Help us. Wait. Sit and wait.
I should wait.
Yes, please.
Well, I'm convinced that the policy is not implementable.
So you ask question and you reply to your...
Since the policy is not implementable, why are we discussing it here?
Thank you.
You are wasting our time. No. The policy is not implementable. Now you decide to table it for discussion. For what?
Thank you. You stated your opinion. Please go sit.
Right, I'll come back.
Hello, Onela Gangpa. I just want to read the scope of the PDP. It clearly says in the current PDP manual, the policy development process covers the development and modification of policies for handling internet number resources within the Afrinic service region. Change of the policy development itself will also follow the process. Internet number resources policies are distinctly separate from Afrinic general business practices and procedures. General business practices and procedures are not within the purview of the PDP. So I want to ask, where does your problem statement fit in the scope of the current PDP? I want to ask that. I want the authors to tell me where does it fit and why, if it does not fit in the current scope, why are we discussing it in LPG? Thank you.
You answer? Yeah.
Excuse me.
Let's
Take a couple of comments first.
Take a couple of Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to respond to the last question very briefly. This is directly related to number resources because it talks to the revocation of number resources. It directly affects the ability to keep using the number resources or not. In the same way that if you look at the DNS policy about non-assigned resources not getting DNS entries, again, it is a policy that says if you don't do X, your resources will act in a specific way. So exactly the same relationship there, hence the policy is within the remit of this PDP in the author's opinion. You can take the other questions and just hit the button.
I want to take the very good question from Sean. And Sean asked why, as the service provider, he thinks we shouldn't have shut down the internet for the conference. And I couldn't agree with you more, Sean. We shouldn't have shut down the internet. It was unacceptable to shut down the internet. And obviously, you asked then about why you're targeting this against governments and why not ISPs. Well, ISPs have a control mechanism already. They're a business operation. So if they shut down the internet, then they will go out of business by their own actions. So there is already a control mechanism to make it not want. They have to serve their customers well, otherwise they lose their customers. It's that simple. We did abuse the privilege here, and I hope that Afrinic will forgive me and let us provide the bandwidth to further Afrinic events.
I will respond to Mary's comment on rewarding governments that keep the internet up. I think that's a good idea and a good proposal. However, we need to be able to identify within the service providers community what kind of mechanisms those would be, so that then we are focused on a more positive approach on dealing with encouraging the internet to stay open as opposed to focusing on those who are shutting it down.
Okay, thank you. Continue. Mark, yes?
Mark Elkins, thank you. Thank you very much for the demonstration, although I understand that the streaming was working perfectly during the process. Is that true? Okay, so we didn't really shut down this conference as far as the rest of the world is concerned.
It's working for me. It is still working for me.
Oh well. But perhaps you could have left IPv6 running while you shut off IPv4 instead. That would have been slightly more interesting.
We actually did.
Sorry.
Okay, so back to the proposal.
But anyway, back to the proposal. I think this is a great idea. I really believe AfriNIC or an RIR is the right vehicle to do this within, because it's got the power to implement a shutdown against governments that do this type of thing. And I would really like to see this becoming potentially a global policy, because the problem exists around the world. Thank you.
Oui. Donald, please. Yes, go ahead.
Et je prie tous les autres de prendre leur casque. Il y en a qui ne prennent pas leur casque, ça veut dire que ce que nous disons là, ça ne les intéresse pas.
Yeah, some people not taking their headset, which means that is not interesting them, and this is not encouraging. So I need to make a link in my thinking, and I don't need people to get themselves angry, because this is what is coming to my mind. I can see CPI in my front. Maybe they'll try to punish, the ICC will punish the government because they withdraw their participation to the ICC, or maybe they decided to protect the sovereignty of the country. With the comparison you put in place, or you carry out just soon to interrupt with Wi-Fi in this room, I don't think that was so effective, because I continue to exchange myself. If it's the government, nobody will continue to make an exchange with the outside. Consequently, I think you're trying to take with, like a pleasure, the interruption of governmental internet. First of all, the country is a sovereign, and you cannot, secondly, you cannot to sneak out to know what motivated this reaction. And one of the things I would like the authors try to approach those countries so that where the interruption took place, so that they can get really the meaning, what pushed them to take this decision to shut down the internet. And you see, the country, the state has his right to do this to protect its people. And yesterday we had one observation, but unfortunately we couldn't, we couldn't have. Oh my God. Interpretation. And do a father locking his door in his house to protect his children, you have to take this in consideration. And once again, if this policy have been written in a very total sovereignty. Thank you.
Haitham, yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Haitham. Yes.
First, I would like to thank authors for this policy proposal. Second, I'm personally against any shutdown for internet, whether partial or totally. But when government decided to shut down internet, whether partially or totally, there are many reasons behind that. One of them is regarding national security of people. So, how AfriNIC, according to your policy, will judge the reasons of shutting down internet before applying sanctions on government? Second, when you apply sanctions on governments, I believe you are applying sanctions on the whole people in the country. Because once you hinder the government from taking more resources or revoking the IB resources from government, you are hindering e-government applications, you're hindering e-learning applications. In principle, I am against this policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Raúl Echeverría. I work for the Internet Society, but speaking on my own role here. my personal capacity as a long-standing member of the RIR's community. I think that this policy changes the basis, the essence of the RIR system, what I think is not good. The RIR's policies have been always based on needs and not on political considerations. And the RIRs have been always, what is one of the main strengths of the RIRs is the fact that they are neutral technical organizations and not based on, this policy could turn the RIRs on political bodies. And I think that there is not an adequate risk assessment related to this policy. I think that it will put, if adopted, will put a lot of stress on the organization. The organization could be liable, and I think that it will be a chicken-egg problem because if it becomes a policy, so the members are committed to follow the policies, but it's a policy that contradicts the other policies. This is the kind of things that the lawyers love. And besides making Afrinic liable, it will put Afrinic under a lot of political controversies and probably political attacks. So I think that before adopting a policy like this one, the risk assessment should be very fine and very, very deep. And those risks are very important because Africa needs a strong Afrinic, and the rest of the internet ecosystem needs a strong Afrinic. So the weaken the Afrinic in some way will produce a damage that is beyond the Afrinic itself and in all the internet ecosystem. The last two considerations is that I think that everybody here is against the shutdowns, the internet shutdowns, and the presentation has been very good. I think that I appreciate all the numbers that you presented. I think that all of us can agree on that and the facts that were presented. And the problem is how to deal with the shutdowns, if this policy is the right mechanism or not. I think that the way to deal with shutdowns is providing more internet, trying to connect the people that is suffering the shutdowns, instead of revoking the resources that they can use. And that's
okay. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Reminder about 90 seconds.
Yes. So yes, please be in your comment in 1 minute, so we'll can accommodate more comments. Go ahead, please.
This is Ahmed Mohammed from NTC Sudan, the regulator. Although the
close to the mic, please.
Although the justification made in the presentation for this policy, but I think, in my personal opinion, it is not applicable for all countries. Thank you.
Okay, Christian Bope from Republic of Congo, speaking on my own capacity. I think this policy is out of scope Afrinic, first of all. And secondly, because the staff analysis clearly stated that we can't implement it. And why are we discussing? Third point is, yesterday during the discussion, I think we all agree that we should open up, not close up. Thank you. And in the conclusion, I don't support the policy, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Benjamin Ishan, and first of all, I'd like to say that I oppose this policy. I don't support it in any extent whatsoever. And you gave a very good example by shutting down the internet in this room, like you're acting on behalf of the government. I would like to know what would have been the appropriate Afrinic response in this room when you would have shut down the internet in this. Would you continue to deny us of service because the ISP has shut down the service, or would you have continued to take away resources from the ISP because they shut down the service and affecting the other people outside this room? So in this example you gave the example of what the government has done. What would have been the Afrinic's response to what you did?
I think they got that question. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Alpha. I'm from Senegal. I will speak in French.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Alpha Abdoulaye Jam. I'm the Director of Information System Post and Telecommunication Senegal. I'm against internet shutdowns, and I'm against this policy at the same time. What we need to know is that today the government should not be sanctioned. It should be supported. If today this policy is implemented, we're forgetting that the government, all the infrastructures, all the services that the government has put in place is to offer services to the people. And so if you apply this policy and you sanction the government, we are going to stop services reaching the government. So we are actually encouraging governments not to invest in the digital economy. We are pushing African governments not to invest in internet today. We saw yesterday, for instance, during the work group with the government. Excuse me, Mr. Chair, there's a microphone that is on and we cannot get. So if you do not encourage people to use internet, this is not going to happen. The problem that I see here is that this policy is directed, is commercially directed, is a business-oriented policy, rather. If you have an opportunity to do this, it's because you have some incentives that have been given by the government. It's a government that created this conducive environment, the government that gave you the license, so cutting the hand that feeds you is not a good thing. For security, national security reasons, for national security reasons. Donc, je crois qu'on a compris. For national security reasons, a certain number of countries have cut internet, shut down internet in developed countries. In the US, in France, there was a risk of hacking where people wanted to influence the election results. If an African country that does not have the same capacities, who do not have the same means as the US or France, what they will simply do is to shut down internet. So we should not apply this policy, and it should not even be discussed here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Wangari Kabiru, and I would like to reference to the AfriNIC website, which refers to the Africa Network Information Center. AfriNIC is the regional internet registry, RIR, for Africa. It is responsible for the distribution and management of internet number resources, that is IP addresses, space, IPv4 and IPv6, and autonomous system numbers in its service region, which includes Africa and the Indian Ocean region. What this tells me is that AfriNIC is responsible for a resource. I go back to the resources that we use for production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. And what this means is that AfriNIC actually is responsible for how we distribute our resource today, which is called the internet. And so it means that they are liable if that resource is not used as it should be used by the parties or the persons to which it distributes it to. So I support this motion saying that the internet does not belong to the ISP providers. The internet does not belong to the governments, whether it's an African government or any other government. The internet belongs to the people. Thank you very much.
So I think we have to close this queues. So who is the last one on the center one? And on the side one, who's the last? Okay, after Prof. Guinos, huh? Yes.
Thank you.
I think they have to reply on some. Yes, please.
Yes, there's been a few questions, which are questions, obviously a few speeches. One point about the internet shutdown we demonstrated he felt wasn't very effective. He could still get the internet, and that was the deliberate part of the demonstration. When we've seen internet shutdowns taking place, they're rarely all that effective, because I think it's expected on service providers that we can just hit a kill switch and turn off and block social media or do something like that. It's not true. It's not the case. Like, internet content is delivered from hundreds of IP addresses by content delivery networks all over the world, different services. Skype uses different ports, everything, yeah. And during the Ugandan elections that took place, there was some shutdown implemented, and they implemented a shutdown on Twitter. And most of the tweets about the Ugandan election, about 50–60% of the tweets about the election, were about telling you how to use a VPN to get onto Twitter to tweet about the election. It just demonstrates that it isn't effective, and it doesn't really, it just cuts off the communication to the non-tech savvy, to the less educated. This is what I'm talking about, creating a divide. So when you shut it down, it creates a divide between those with information and those without information. Other people will always have access to information. You are cutting off information to some people who cannot do it, cannot afford it, cannot, have the technological know-how to use a VPN. And then on the thing around, it was encouraging non-investments by government. Well, it's shooting yourself in the foot. I read a recent analysis by Zalam Analytics, heavy reading, is on the web, talking about Cameroon's projects, Cameroon's mega projects. It's built a subsea cable to Nigeria and is planning a transatlantic cable crossing from Cameroon, I think, to Fortaleza in Brazil, and has built backbone networks. And basically the analyst, this is analysts from the States, they're basically saying that it might appear that a country like Cameroon is uninvestable. Who from the private sector is going to go and build and set up ISPs in Cameroon? I'm certainly not going to put my money there. Why would I? And who from the World Bank or a funding bank or Exim Bank is going to fund to build cables and subsea? Governments that do this are shooting themselves in the foot because they make themselves uninvestable. So it's not the policy that does that. It's the action of governments doing it in the first place.
I'm going to very quickly respond to one or two of these. So, how will Afrinic judge the reasons for the shutdown? I don't believe they should, because, as stated in draft 2, the internet is a fundamental human right, addressed in Articles 12, Articles 19, Articles 20 of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, as well as the African Declaration on Freedom of the Internet. And if you're violating a human right, you're violating a human right. It's that simple. And I don't think that it's up to Afrinic to judge if the violation of human right is acceptable or not, because in my personal view, it's never acceptable. And then the other thing is that we were said that, we addressed the point about it being out of scope. The argument that was made about the fact that governments shouldn't be sanctioned but should rather be supported. I agree that we should be supporting governments 100% when they do the right thing. However, I do believe that there need to be consequences for actions. And I also believe that this debate in this forum, for those who are saying it out of scope, this is the first time that I've actually seen the governments at the microphone being prepared to talk. They're here. And my thanks to those governments for being here to engage. But I think that that proves the effectiveness of a debate like this in this forum, because it's brought them to the microphone. And my thanks for them to being here and being willing to engage.
Thanks. Continue, please.
Thank you. I'm David Bakala from the Internet Society, but I talk on my personal capacity. I'm opposed to this proposal. I'm opposed to shutdowns. I know what it means. I agree with you how much it affects the economy, how much it affects the lives of people around Africa. However, the problem that I have with this proposal is that it is not effective, as it has been said by many. Take my own country, Ethiopia. If you are going to cut the government, you are going to cut the internet from everybody. So who gives you the right to cut it from people? So we have to be careful that the remedy is worse than the problem itself. Even if you find some solution for this, I don't think there is any way that such a proposal will have any effect. but it will have a lot of damages. If by any miracle it passes, it will damage the relationship that Afrinic and the other RIRs have with governments, which is a very important relationship, including to solve these kind of problems. These kind of problems can be solved only by discussing with governments, and we have to keep those bridges. And it's not by blowing the bridges that we are going to find the solutions. And for discussions, you don't start by firing a cannon. For me, this is a major, blow for the relationship with governments, and I think and I hope it will not pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, please. Side mic.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adnan from Congo. I'm speaking in French, so put headphones. So,
I think that we are getting so much into politics. This debate is becoming a little bit too politicized because apart from the time when the UN said that this is a fundamental right, the regulators or governments should not shut down internet. So we should have this kind of discussion, but I don't think this is the right forum. This is not the right forum to discuss this kind of issues. Thank you.
Merci de me donner la parole.
Thank you very much. My name is Mahmoud. I'm the manager of Lance, Guinea. This is the national agency in charge of IT system security. We are working in Guinea, but also try to secure different operators. When I came here, the person who has the right to shut down internet in Guinea, it's me. But I'm trembling as I stand before you here. Guinea is a country that has more than 80% illiteracy rates. I started learning at 14 years, and so I went on, studied elsewhere, and I'm aware of the importance of the digital economy today. The government sometimes decide to shut down internet for political reasons, and I cannot agree to do this if I'm asked to do that. If I'm asked by the government to listen to tape the telephone conversations of opposition leaders, I'm not going to do it. Guinea is a country where there is a very high literacy rates. Let's take a concrete example that we have some hackers from somewhere, and they don't need to be the country to commit these cybercrimes. 1, 2, or 3 people could compromise just 10 smartphones in Guinea. This could actually provoke ethnic violence in our country. So, I'm not talking about a country, I'm talking about just 2 or 3 people with internet. It's possible to do that. You just compromise 10 telephones, which will start sending SMSs in different villages, saying in the neighboring village, your ethnic group is being attacked. They've killed 10 people. This information is going to spread very fast. And these are people who are not educated. What are they going to do with regard to this? These particular people is going to actually start attacking the other ethnic group, thinking that this is true information, and they start killing people. And so I'm talking about what can happen in our country. So we will be faced with a civil war in our country.
Your point noted. Thank you very much. It's noted.
if I cut internet, my own children might get killed. And if our systems are compromised, it's not one person that's going, or my daughter that's going to be killed only. It's 2 million people who are. So what do I do in this particular case? I'm going to press on the button and shut down the internet.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Badru. I'm in my capacity here. I'm tempted to believe that this is really a publicity stunt by the co-authors. If you note their stance in the beginning, they all spent at least 3 minutes talking about their businesses and what they do, which I've not seen before in a PDP process. Anyway, a sovereign state that makes a decision to shut down the internet has repercussions from their population and global repercussions. So they have a reason, maybe. The case is about dialogue, not for us to actually try to believe that we have power over a sovereign state. I believe this is done again back to capture. We're here spending a whole lot of time talking about something that our staff has told us that they cannot implement, right? There are issues that we should be handling to do with why we're here, which we're not talking about. I think we need to bring this to an end very quickly. It is a waste of valuable time. People have traveled here to discuss policy on how we grow the internet in Africa, not about something which is really unenforceable. Let's get to a point, please.
I'm Emmanuel Adjovi from Francophonie, OIF.
I would like to give two contributions. Maybe, Mr. I don't know why you're discussing this kind of policy, but if we've decided to discuss it, it means that Afrinic has time to talk about these issues. So I would like to give two comments on a legal point of view and a political point of view. On the legal point of view, I would like that we ask ourselves, what is the status, the legal status of Afrinic? It is a company that is incorporated within a country, and this is what we call in legal language the hierarchy of legal standards. I'm an advocate. Does a company incorporated within a country, does it operate, is it above the law? This is a legal question that I'm asking. So, those people, you should ask this kind of question to your legal experts before proposing this kind of policy. When we analyze this policy from a legal point of view, from the and of the legal status of Afrinic, Afrinic does not have any legitimacy or to try to implement this kind of policy. This is the legal point of view. Mr. Chair, kindly switch off. There's a mic that's on. I cannot get the interpretation. I would like to thank those who have made different contributions and talked about the human rights. I would like to ensure that, to say that Afrinic is not actually a court. And those who gave business arguments, they are not above the state security, actually. So I'm going to ask them this question. They're talking about shutdowns that could have repercussions on business interests. None of us here would like internet shutdowns. No one does want any shutdown in any country. Okay, merci.
1 minute for 8-1.
Let me finish.
Just finish in 30 seconds. No, you have to respect the time, sir.
Yes, we have the time. No problem.
On est en Afrique. We are.
Dernier point.
The last point that I would like to talk about.
C'est de savoir.
I would like to know.
Puisque Afrinic a choisi la politisation.
Afrinic has chosen to politicize this issue. To know if. No, if maybe we will have a policy to punish states that are going to governments that are going to cut electricity to their citizens. So this is what they are going to propose. Next, we have some countries that actually do surveillance of their people, and this has an impact on the businesses also, because you are spying on other companies of other country. So are we going to put in place some policies to punish this kind of governments also?
Thank you. We have some remote participation. So yeah, Vimala.
So Vimala, I have a question from the Jabber. I would just like to apologize to delegates that are in the overflow room, outside and remotely, and on Jabber room they were cut off from the internet. So now they are back. I'm going to read the question. So there is one from Kepwashing Nadan. So based on the modification proposed by the author, I am of the opinion that an internet shutdown and a partial shutdown can only be material if the prejudice caused has a direct impact on any form of national and regional social disorder. Second, the nature of contents vehicled on such platform, or if the internet is used in any form to cause or to incite the public at large into massive gatherings to cause social disorder, or in any form where religious, cultural, social, or economic is addressed in a manner to cause havoc in a country, then an internet or a partial shutdown is warranted. Third question, such shutdown should mandatorily be governed by the highest court of justice, and where the judiciary and the legislative observe a separation of powers. How does Afrinic classify, judge such practices? There is another question from Wafa Damani from Tunisia. Governments are members of Afrinic, and the scope of Afrinic is to manage IP resources within the country. Afrinic is made by its members to serve its members. My concern is to find how can Afrinic decide to apply sanctions on its members about the use and management of internet, which is out of the scope of Afrinic. It's internet governance issue. Preventing government from IP resource, it's not the right solution to solve shutdowns problem. And please don't shut down the internet anymore. It's causing logistic issues. Thank you.
Okay, authors, you have some time to reply. Please be brief.
Yeah, very briefly. Firstly, I'm not speaking for Afrinic. I'm speaking as one of the authors of this proposal. But as far as I'm concerned and the way I see it, Afrinic has not chosen to politicize anything. The authors proposed the policy to the people. The community then discusses. The community chooses to either have consensus or not have consensus. That is the nature of the bottom-up approach. And this is not Afrinic that wrote this policy. And the authors have been very clear about that in every media release we've done, that this was done by the authors for the community to make a decision. And that is the way the PDP works, and it's been our stance in the media, and it is a stance we stand by. Secondly, with regards to the question about internet being used to propagate social disorder or violate religious rules, let's be clear here. If the government has a law in the country that prohibits certain types of content, we don't want to change that law, right? What we are saying is that the vast majority of these shutdowns, you never see a court order. You never ever see the court order. You get a letter from the regulator that says shut down. That's not a court order. And if there is a law, then go ahead, but let it go through the proper legal process. You cannot just issue a letter on an ISP and say, shut it down. Because, by the way, that also puts a problem on the ISP, both financially and legally, in terms of the Bill of Rights, because the ISP is then interfering with human rights. So, you know, we're not trying to change a country's laws, but let there be proper laws.
I just want to take the question from Badru. I don't think this is publicity stunt by the authors, Badru. I do have a pretty powerful marketing and publicity machine. I haven't engaged them in this. The policy has attracted some publicity, and that was not intentional. We just put the policy on the Afrinet webpage, and it did automatically attract publicity, I think, because it's a hot global issue, and it certainly wasn't intended by us. And the presentation didn't mention products or services. We were just presenting core values and reasons for an ISP and why they felt that shutdowns were bad. You said it cannot be implemented and it is a waste of time to have this discussion. Look, we've been here an hour, and obviously lots of people's time has been used. I haven't seen anybody leaving yet, so I don't think anyone here feels the time has been wasted.
Okay, continue. Go ahead. Okay. Who, Maimun, or who is first? Okay.
My name is Maimouna Diop. I'm from Senegal, and I speak of my.
Could you please use the mic?
Yeah. Okay. Did you hear me? Thank you. So I tell that I would like to thank Afrinic for this affirmation. I just read on the internet that government around the world shuts down the internet more than 50 times in 2016, last year. And it was not only government from Africa. It is just the first point. The second point is I would like to share my experience, as I had a great honor to represent my country, Senegal, in several global policy bodies, like the G8.4s, the UN ICT Task Force, the UN Multi-Stakeholders Advisory Group, and the GAC, the Governmental Advisory Group of ICANN. And I think out of those global fora, each of us, we are first citizen of a country, and we elected our government. And I think we have to have a big respect of our government. A good question. What problem do we want to solve today? My understanding is what we want is to have means to preserve the right of the citizens of the world to access to internet everywhere and every time. And if it is the issue, what Afrinic, in which level Afrinic has a possibility to add value in searching a solution to this issue? Because it is a very complex issue. I just would like to come back to Afrinic bylaws. I chaired Afrinic 2 years, so I would like really to come back to our bylaws. At the part 3.4, the bylaw says Afrinic has to promote responsible management of internet resource through the African nation, as well as the responsible development and operation in internet infrastructure. And also, Afrinic has to provide educational opportunity to the public so as to increase understanding within African community of internet technical and political issue. My question is, what is the added value of this policy on African objective? Is it any added value? And I also want to appeal each of us that we need to find a solution. And I think the good way, the best way to do that is having what we try to build since years and years, a multi-stakeholders approach. We are not here as a private sector or public sector or government. We are here as a community, and we have to work together, hand on hand, and to try to solve our problem. And it is not the way by preventing resource to the government or other ISPs that we will achieve this goal. Thanks to you.
Thank you. Right.
My name is Anoa Maina. I'm an end user of the internet, and I have a few comments. First of all, what Ben did not tell you guys when he was building the case for the importance of the internet is that as much as the internet is good, it's also bad. Point number one. The state, the administrative state, in the past 40 years, controlled basically dissemination of information within the state. So the broadcast media and the print media had editors who could actually look at what is being sent to the public before it was published. That was done because of social order, okay? Now, the problem with the internet, the negative side of the internet is wrong information and false information can move so fast across the society without the control, any control, okay? And there are repercussions to that. Now, Raul put a case about the RIR across the world, and he said that the role of the RIR is very, very basic. Distribute resources to promote internet development, and 2, maintain the database. That is the role of AFRINIC. And the staff of AFRINIC, in their reviews, most free internet. It's Africa and South America. Go and look at the map of internet censorship and even these shutdowns. We have the most freedom. Our governments are the most free governments which do not give a damn what we do on the internet unless when there is issues related to security that can compromise social order. And in Uganda, where I come from, the government did what they did because they were worried about the repercussions of wrong information that was being distributed on Facebook, and they did what they did to protect us all. They do it for one single purpose. But under normal circumstances, no president in Africa cares what you do on the internet. So, Ben, Andrew, Fiona, please, you should have done your research about the symptoms, the reasons why these things happen, before promoting the economic and whatever impact of the internet. Because these governments, when you look at the GDP of most countries in Africa, it's either mineral resources, agriculture, the internet, and telecommunication is like on the last part of the gross domestic product values. So they don't even see the value, which is why they can say, oh, there's chaos, let's shut it first, control the chaos, bring it back up. So think of go into the mindset of the administrative state and realize why they do it. Because under normal circumstances, the whole of Africa today, there's no internet which is shut currently.
Thank you. Point noted.
Thank you.
Wait. Yeah. Okay, members, we are more than 1 hour behind our schedule.
And we have 3 proposals.
So, and we have still two other proposals. Huh? So, for those who are lined up in the mic, are you still insisting on taking Your 1 minute.
We can skip the co-chair election, it's not important.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So, okay, if you are insist, we are here to serve you. But, okay, 1 minute, 1 minute, only 1 minute, no more examples. We hear a lot of examples today. So 1 minute, please, the IT, put the timer on the screen. 1 minute and we will shut down the mic, okay?
Okay.
Sir, go ahead.
Okay, I have just a few points. I have just 3 points that I want to be. I'm in a way to agree with this policy, but I want first we start this policy within the members of AFRINIC, which is the telco operators of the ISP. When there's a partial shutdown, as I may know in my country, where they cut WhatsApps and other things that the people are using to communicate. This is under the people, for the people. Why we don't shut down, stop the IP address for this ISP and this telco? I don't see anything about the partial shutdown in your document. Please put it inside, and after that we can go to the global shutdown. That's my first opinion. The second one is about who shall decide. We are talking about evidence. And we say that the evidence will be submitted to the AFRINIC Governance Committee. Okay? They have to decide if the evidence is good or bad. Okay? Okay, I don't want to be at the place to IC2 from Gambia. When this evidence comes to Gambia, you don't go back home, I'm sure.
Thank you. Your minutes.
The third word is it in the mandate of the governance committee to decide within AFRINIC can stop to serve one government or another? This is a question I want a good and
Thank you very much. I just want to remind you, we already closed the queue, and the last one here should be the guy after Prof. Quino with the red hat. I don't know your name. Not you. You are not in the queue, please. So.
And we said 60 seconds.
And yes, and we said 1 minute. And this line, I think, who is the last one? Yeah? Christian, yes. Christian was the last one. So, no. Christian is the last one on this queue, because we close the mic. Next, please. Go ahead. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Halifum Hailu from Ethiopia. I'm a AFRINIC fellow and speaking on my behalf. Okay, I don't think this policy is appropriate, at least at this time. The assumption behind this policy seems that all governments shut down the internet just for the sake of shutting it down. No, they face problems, they face crisis, and they have no idea how to deal with it. So it's a knowledge and capacity problem. And my question is, don't you think that this policy could have an intended consequence? Because it is a kind of healing by killing, in the sense that it suggests that the solution for internet shutdown is shutting it down by denying these resources. My second question is a legal issue. Do we have a legal base that allows companies, membership-based companies, to punish a government, a sovereign government, because governments are subject to international law, not to a policy of a certain company?
We already have this question. Thank you. Good. No way. No. Go ahead.
Yes, this is Nikweno speaking for myself, but I'm from Ghana.com. In my opinion, the internet is always good I don't know who is saying there's anything bad about the internet, because it's about the balance, so it's good. Governments created Afrinic, so just don't do this, okay? The one who created you is the one that you are planning to destroy, and it's not good. From the unfavorable staff analysis report, the co-chairs should not have put this on the agenda at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I said it.
Yeah.
You know, let's end this discussion there. I mean,
please, calm down. Perhaps we need to fix the PDP process. The problem statement of this policy is based on belief and uses the word, I believe, we believe. You read it, say, we believe. I did not come here to go to church, oh. Maybe you did. Afrinic PDP is based on facts and needs of the region. Coming from board member and an ASO member, to me, is a negative signal, okay? Please, we don't want to play kings. We're all proletariats here, okay? We can choose to walk half naked here, but we don't. Similarly, let's be responsible. It's out of scope of technical administration and attempts to divide our multi-stakeholder balance, leading Afrinic into dangerous territory. For a proponent who rejected review audit policy, ought to be the last to propose audit of governments. There are forums, e.g., African IGF, Global IGF, etc., that you can open, and then we can open up AIS forum for this if you want, but not Afrinic. Afrinic is a different thing. I prefer we work on open up policies, reward for genuine uptime, BCP, DNSSEC, etc. I recommend the authors withdraw the policy and apologize seriously to governments and the community for causing pain and distracting scarce attention resources. Okay, attention.
Thank you, Prof.
I can't support this policy, even though I have been a victim of a shutdown. You don't know how painful it is. I know. Please, for goodness sake, reject this policy for the sake of the internet.
Thank you very much, Prof. Go ahead. Please, we have to continue.
And if Prof has already spoken your mind, you may feel free to sit down. Next, please.
Well, I think I had to thank Prof that he's able to prove that the authors of this policy are still in the areas of David and Goliath. And then it's not possible. Afrinic cannot punish governments. And the saddest part is we brought this policy to discuss it here. Let's end it here. Let's end it. It's a disgrace to us. People are listening to us.
Thank you.
Tijani du Tchad. I'm talking French. In French, yes.
I believe that after listening to Professor Ni, we should close this debate, but given the passion, and this should also serve as a lesson for those who proposed these to avoid the same mistake next time. I believe that just some publicity stunts. What you're doing here, let's tell each other the truth. As a community, we cannot impose orders to our government. So I would have understood if you are proposing this policy in a way that we needed to think about a solution to support the governments and not to cut internet, but rather to get alternative solutions to go around their problems. So we would have discussed this, but given that the chair and the co-chairs have a lot of time to lose, they allowed this issue to be on the program. And so right now they are really telling us that we don't have time, but yes, yet they have have a lot of time to lose discussing this kind of thing. So for those, we need to be discussing how we can give access to people who do not have internet access, but let's not discuss these issues that do not concern us here.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Owen DeLong, Akamai Aaron Advisory Council, speaking strictly for myself and not either of those organizations. I think this is a rare bird. I think that this is an excellent policy proposal that is well within scope and that it would make terrible policy if it were adopted. And so I oppose the policy, but I am glad to see the debate, and I think the debate's been very useful. I think that the people who are calling this a publicity stunt are sort of right, but I don't think it's the kind of publicity stunt they think. This, I think, has attracted the attention of the governments that engage in internet shutdowns, and I think it has put them on notice that the community will not tolerate them. And I think that's a very, very good thing, and I thank the authors for their service in this regard.
Thank you. Please, Alan. Alan, please. Yes, you.
Okay, hello. I'm Alan Barrett. I'm the CEO of Afrinic. I don't like internet shutdowns, and I also don't like this policy proposal. On shutdowns, I think that governments who want to do shutdowns, I wish they would find some other way to achieve their aims, and they should be aware of damage to their reputation and collateral damage to things they did not anticipate. Connectivity providers who shut down service in a conference should also be wary of such issues. Now, on the proposal, Afrinic has always had policies which allocate number resources based on justified need and remove number resources perhaps when they're no longer in use. This proposal would do something very different from what we've done before, and it's not at all clear that it's in our mandate. I'm also very worried about the potential of souring relationships between Afrinic and governments around the world, not only around the continent. It could expose Afrinic to legal risk. We might be sued or taken to court or something for the things that this proposal suggests. And finally, this proposal, the latest version, assigns a role to the governance committee, which is not in their mandate. That wasn't in the staff assessment because the staff assessment was done on a previous version of the proposal that did not include that point. Thank you.
Un point d'information, Monsieur le Président.
Information, Mr. Chair. Some information, Mr. Chair.
Please, we closed the queue before you came to the line.
Nous avons fait.
Respect the rules and please help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for protecting me because I thought I had been long at the mic before you went to the queue that does not exist. Sunday Folayan is my name. I'm the chair of the Afrinic board. I understand from staff that doing this would put the company at great risk. And as board, I do not think we will let this pass because we will be failing in our fiduciary responsibilities to see a policy that will hurt the company pass. So if need be, we will queue behind management. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you.
Bien, c'est pas grave. J'ai trois préoccupations.
I have three concerns. First one, some of my concerns have already been taken into consideration by my predecessors. So we need to remind the community here that this policy came 2 days after a declaration of the Afrinic board regarding internet shutdowns. And it's a member of the board who proposed this policy. So we need to be worried about this. Second concern, how can we decide to deny resources to a sovereign country? Another concern is with regard to a term that we talk about often, the human rights, defending human rights. We've seen in the world how this has created disorder. As Afrinic want to be part of this, we also talked about bringing proof to the committee. Do you think that the country is going to try to explain to a private company why they shut down internet? Forget it. I would like that the community to try to think about some mechanisms we need to put in place so that we to avoid having this kind of policies. It's extremely dangerous. So we need to put in place mechanisms, even if it's a bottom-up process, to avoid this kind of policy proposals. This is not only to protect the community, but also Afrinic.
Remote participation? Yes, please.
So it's from Ish Sukan, LS Digital Mauritius. Have the authors of the proposal considered reviewing the sanctions to limit collateral damage to the users in a country?
So please, authors, be brief.
Okay, I'm going to take a couple of these very briefly. Firstly, to Maimuna, thank you very much for your carefully thought out words. It's much appreciated. With regards to clause 3.4 of the Afrinic bylaws, 3.4.5 refers specifically to Afrinic lobbying for legislative and regulatory considerations in the benefits of their members. Clause 3.4.9 goes on to say to do anything else to achieve the objectives of the company. It's pretty wide. Those clauses, interestingly enough, were cut and pasted, well, particularly 3.4.5, out of the APNIC bylaws and objectives. So we do feel that there is some scope there. However, one of the things that I really liked was about what is the forum and what is the Afrinic right. Maybe Afrinic needs a public policy working group, and maybe it is worth asking Afrinic if we can look at the creation of a public policy working group that does what is stated in the bylaws and does the lobbying for legislative and regulatory consideration as per the bylaws. It's something worth considering. Maybe that's a better option than this proposal. With regards to have the authors considered reviewing the sanctions, the simple answer is the authors have stated we know that there were problems with this policy, and we are hoping that by creating this debate that over time the right solutions will come forward, that we can find this right solution together as a community, as a bottom-up approach. We look around and we have this thing called the internet that has 1 billion people on it. 1 billion people, many of whom are far smarter than any of the 3 people that are sitting up here. We don't have the right answers, but we believe that out there in the community, the right answers exist. We had to, however, create sufficient debate for those answers to come out. And the way to create that debate was to put something out there and try and do something to create a debate so that the right solutions come. Yes, we know that the policy isn't right at the moment, but we want the debate. We want to bring people into the room, we want to hear the ideas, and we want to modify, which is why version 2 contains much of the comments that were on the list. So I hope that answers some of the questions. And one other thing with regards to the IGF, I know that there is already discussion about having this on the agenda for the IGF in Kenya, and we have also had an invite to be at the IGF in Geneva, and we'll take this to every forum that we can because we believe in the cause and we believe that this is a major issue and something has to be done to stop the internet shutdowns, be it in this forum or any other forum. This was just the forum we had available to us to start the debate.
Yeah, I want to answer the question that came from Noah, or the point that came from Noah Minor, which was a good one, though I don't fully agree with it. But he said that the internet, as well as doing good, can do bad. And I obviously didn't include that in the presentation. Obviously, there are bad things on the internet, and I'm not denying that there are bad things on the internet. And then he made a good point to say that when you look at censorship maps, that Africa's actually got, or certain countries in Africa have got very free internet. Kenya's got one of the freest internets in the world. I would say that a lot of this is to do with lack of capacity to censor the internet. So I think African governments would in many cases like to censor the internet, or governments all over the world. They would like to promote their own core values, which may differ from the values of the United States, for instance, and would like to have certain censorship, so the capacity isn't there. So assumptions that a gateway exists that can filter every tweet and this and that on a per content basis just isn't there in nearly all African countries. It just doesn't exist. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right way for governments to hit the problem with a sledgehammer. If you have a problem that's been caused on the internet by a few individuals, you might want a needle to work out and find out who those people are and arrest them for whatever bad things they're doing or whatever it is. But with that lack of capacity to do that, it doesn't mean the answer is to turn off the internet. It's going back to the unfairness. If you think back to school, I'm sure it happened to everybody. There'd be one naughty child who would do something bad, and then the whole class would be kept back after lessons or caned or whatever happened in your school, and everybody's punished for the actions of one, and that isn't fair. That's not fair to anybody, and we took that into consideration when developing the policy. But I think the overwhelming takeaway for me from the debate today, and hearing it from the likes of Nii and Sunday and Alan, particularly from representing long history with Afrinic, is that, and I did say this, is that the concern was that it could, by having a punitive policy where Afrinic would take action against governments, it puts them into a conflict situation with government. And I think for that reason, we need to rethink it and make a policy. If we come back with a new policy, come back with something more along the lines with, early comment was about affirmative action, more rewarding countries that don't shut down the internet. And we can think about that and see if we can keep it going with something positive rather than something negative that would put Afrinic into a conflict situation. Because I think, Andrew's talking about Afrinic's public policy mandate. I think it's Afrinic's mandate to promote good use of the internet, and I guess the policy should be readjusted to consider it that way. You want to add on that, Fiona?
I'd just like to give my closing remarks on the debate we've had, and I'd like to say thank you. My colleagues have summarized basically all the input that we've received, and mine is to just appreciate Afrinic for giving us a platform to be able to table this proposal. The intention was not to put Afrinic at risk. It was really to get the discussion beginning. And as Bena said, if we are able to write it differently, look into the sanctions and penalties and adjust, remove the politics that came into it, out of it, and discussing with more of the ISPs and telcos, like one of the presenters has suggested, to see how to best address and how we can work with the governments to reward those that keep the internet open, looking at it more positively. We are basically going to come back to some of you to discuss further so that you can help us change the proposals as we continue the discussion, because truth is, even if we know we've already gotten the feel of the room, and we know that Afrinic may not want to continue the conversation here, but even if we're going to carry it to other forums, we intend to still do so and keep the discussion going. Thank you. And thank you all for the patience, the feedback, and the input. We really appreciate.
In my closing remarks, I just want to also reiterate what Fiona said. This has been a very, very interesting journey, I think, for all of the authors. Heck, it took me all the way to Budapest so that I could, one of the reasons that I was really there was to present this. And I think that the reception that I found in this room and the constructive debate has really, really been refreshing, and it's been appreciated. I really believe that if we work together, we can find a solution. Myself and my co-authors welcome further ideas. As Fiona has said, maybe not in this forum, maybe in this forum in a different version. We're not going to let the cause drop. We know that the policy was flawed. We are hoping to come up with something that does work. And lastly, I'd also like to extend a special thanks to every government that's in this room and every regulator that's in this room for taking the time and coming to the microphone and being here to engage with the community. That is not something we've seen often. It's appreciated, and I really hope to see that governments are back in this room participating in the multi-stakeholder bottom-up approach, because you're a stakeholder as much as anybody else. So come with your proposals, your ideas. We welcome them. So thanks very much to all of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the authors for this interesting proposal, and thanks for the and thank for the community for the constructive discussions. And I think we decided to continue this very interesting debates on the mailing list. So our decision is to take this proposal to the mailing list for further discussion there. I can.
Ladies and gentlemen, in line with the PDP, a proposal that does not reach rough consensus at a public policy meeting goes back to the list for discussion. The authors can decide to do whatever they may with that policy proposal. Thank you.
Une policy peut être aussi rejetée par la communauté. Une policy peut être rejetée par la communauté.
A policy can be rejected by the community.
Our coffee break is in the area where we had lunch from. So let's keep it quick and short and be back. We have two more proposals ahead, so let's gulp our coffee as quick as we can and head right back. Thank you.
mother know.
Oh, good. So I'll be able to see them. The other way around. Yeah. Okay. So that's the screen. Okay, that'll be fine. You're right. You should be able to see.
Took a long stroll down Fifth Avenue, and I watched some big name draw a crowd. I thought someday I know I'll be like her, but it won't kill me if I'm not. Sometimes I wish that I could have it all and see my name in lights above.
Should start?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sometimes I wish I was more than just a face.
Yes. No, I check it. Don't
really bother me if this is who I'll always be.
Okay, good afternoon, member. We have to continue our third session. We still have two proposals to be taken. The first one will be the internet number resource reviewed by Afrinic. We'll give the floor to the author to present the proposal, please.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to present. But for the sake of better expression, I will speak in French while the slide will be in English. Merci, Chair, pour la parole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I will speak in French while the slides are going to be in English. On behalf of the authors, I'm going to present to you the review policies that we've been discussing for the past 1 year. So the problem statement for this policy is that lack of mechanism of controlling resources could affect the work of Afrinic. So this proposal contributes to the resolving these problems and proposing a mechanism to control this issue of the use of resources. As the introduction says, we've been discussing this issue for 1 year, and since then we have updated it with the input from the different members of the community. version that is on the web was updated from comments and suggestions that we've received since the meeting, the policy meeting of the month of November in Mauritius. The update that happened is for the comments and suggestions from the staff. The first staff analysis enabled us to update the 13.4, section 13.4, taking into account the fact that the list of the causes of the non-respect of the non-violation of the policy is only the violation of policy, and the terms contained in the RSA, as well as the raising of the data contained in the database did not take into place a certain number of considerations. So we have reformulated 13.5 to facilitate comprehension.
La mise à jour à la section 13.6 concerne principalement
is for
la préoccupation qui avait été relevée du danger qui avait à publier
with the publishing confidential data in the annual report. So we updated it to say that the report, the format of the report that should be adopted should respect, should be signed between Afrinic and each member, as well as confidentiality laws that are in force in Mauritius. Since then, since the publication of our last version, we've received some other comments, did another staff analysis for clarification. We answered this, but we need to say here that most of them had already been discussed on the mailing list. Thank you very much. If you have a question, we are at your disposal.
Okay, thank you. Now we are opening the floor for questions and comments. Please line up on the mic.
Hello, thank you for this presentation. So I am Hervé Clément from Orange. I will say I'm supporting this policy because the reliability and completeness of database in a region is very important in terms of security of internet, routing, and so. I think that audit has not to be seen as a fighting contact from the Afrinic to the member, but like a cooperation to help the members to have a very good database and resources registered in a very good way. So if the purpose is like one, I am very supportive of that.
Okay, so we are still opening the mic for further question. If anyone have question, comment, please come to the mic before we are closing.
We're discussing the review of internet resources by Afrinic.
Okay, Christian Bope for the record. I think I'm in full support of this policy. Reason being because nowadays we all know the importance of having accurate data in the WIS database, which is very, very important. Because I've attended some of the discussing about cybersecurity, about all these things, which means that we need to have accurate information on the database. And I think this policy is just, just helping us to achieve that goal, which is very, very important. And on that note, I think I support this policy. Thank you.
I think we need to.
You can't speak on the mic.
Yes.
So this is on time.
Okay, if no more question or comments, one, please.
Yeah, Chris, for the record. Whilst I support the WHOIS update, which is very important, obviously, I would like to actually like the authors to also consider the other part, which is the who was as well, because as far as we go, you have updates, but obviously somebody who's actually used resources before that, okay, and that has been transferred afterwards. You don't know exactly who was actually using it. So my proposal is also for you guys to actually consider the who was as well as the who is to be perfectly updated in both ways.
For this, I think that in the first staff analysis we had, in our first version, we were requesting to Afrinic to delete the record in the database. So the staff come back to us and say that it's not allowed to do it. We just update the record. So by updating it, you will know who was the previous owner of this and yeah.
So by updating the database record, what are we having there? The use of this IP resource, well, these resources from X year to X year, and when they update, what happens? Is it going to change the new updates? So that means you're going to see the new years in there? What happens to the previous one? When you update, obviously you're going to update everything in there, right?
So for this, the policy itself recommends to update, not to delete. And I don't know how the WHOIS database look like, and I can seek support from staff in order to explain. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, Alain, if you have any clarification on that?
Thank you. Is this on? It's on. Thank you. Hi, this is Alan Barrett from Afrinic. The WHOIS database keeps a historical record. So every time you change something, the previous version or the change that you just made is recorded in a log. And we do have a way of querying past versions of records. And we've been thinking about something called Who Was, which would be a better user interface to that historical record. But my understanding of this proposal, the proposal under discussion right now, is that it would require people to update their current information. You can't go back in history and change the past, and I really don't think that would be appropriate. But it sounded as though that might be what was suggested. I would have a concern with trying to change the past records. We can certainly change what's current, and we can move what used to be there into the past, but we can't change the past. Thanks.
Okay, no more comments, so we are trying to take the decision about the policy, and we have only simple 3 questions, and by simple show of hand, we need to measure the temperature of the floor. So the question will be, the first question will be for the member who are in favor or support the proposal. Second question for those who are don't like or opposed to the proposal. The third one, the member who are indifferent. So Ernest will help us on that, and so we'll, the first question, the people who are support the proposal, please raise up your hands.
If you're in support, please put your hand high so we can see it. High, and keep it high, please. If you're in support, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Those who are opposed to the proposal, please raise up your hand. Put your hand up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last one, those who are indifferent, not support, not oppose.
Okay.
Thank you. So with that, we have to thank the authors for this proposal, and we declare that there is a consensus on this proposal, and it should move to the next level, to the last call. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Next agenda, the proposal of Afrinic Policy Development Process, BIS. Please, you call the authors to come and present the proposal.
Hello everyone, my name is Ornella Gankwa, and I'm one of the initiators of this policy proposal. I will be presenting in French, but you can still follow the slides, they are in English. So, l'idée de faire cette police.
The idea of preparing this policy came from the discussion we had on the mailing list on how to improve the PDP as well as to strengthen the role of the chair. So we identified 5 areas that should it needed clear definition. The role and the responsibilities of the chair, the working group of collaboration, the policy development process itself, the appeals and procedures, as well as variances at the end of the presentation. I will have some images that will show us on how we can go about this problem. The diagrams will be on the policy development process, how we judge the RAF consensus, the operations of the working group, as well as the election process of the chair and of the vice chair. We believe that if a decision is taken within a working group, everybody is not going to agree, so we thought that we need to be able to appeal. If somebody does not agree with the decision of the chair, you can appeal. In this particular case, you make an appeal of the chair's decision, and the Afrinic board is going to make a ruling at each level of the policy preparation. You can also make an appeal. The appeal procedure, you can only appeal if you are supported by 3 people, and the appeal should be submitted 2 weeks following the chair's decision. When the chair makes a decision, you have to submit an appeal within 2 weeks following the decision. After submitting your appeal, there is a committee that's going to assess that, and a report is going to be made with regard to the decision that the committee is going to make. And then we're going to talk about the variance. This process can vary. In case of emergency, the working group can decide to make a certain number of decisions rapidly, but not all the PDP procedures should be involved. If there's a consensus during this emergency procedure, the chair is going to present the policy to the next PPM. There's also the variance of the board, and in this particular case, the board can also use this emergency procedure, and if the policy is adopted, the board should present it to the next public policy meeting, the next PPM. I'm now going to show you the diagram that is showing the PDP process that has been updated. Your patience kindly while we prepare the slides. I just talked about the updating of the PDP that we had prepared. When do we start? Whenever we start talking about policies, proposals should be submitted. Can we have Est-ce que vous
Ok, pendant que
while they are preparing the image, I'm going to give some explanations. We have 4 phases right now. Whenever we need to submit policy proposals after submission to the chair, the chair is going to assess the problem statement of the policy, and the problem statement will be assessed according to 3 criteria. Is it going to resolve an issue? If the problem statement is out of scope, or if it's a duplicate. What do you understand by duplicate? Does it mean that is there another policy that's addressing the same issue? So with regard to this issue, 3 issues, the criteria, the chair is going to make a decision. If the policy is badly formulated or cannot resolve a problem, is going to ask the initiators to edit their problem statements and resubmit. If the policy is out of scope, or if it's a duplication, they're going to discuss with the initiators and ask them if they can withdraw their policy proposal. In the case where the proposal is a duplicate, they're going to encourage the authors to go and work with the existing policy proposal. If the initiators do not agree with the chair's decision, the chair is going to submit this to the working group, the problem statement to the working group, and it's the working group that's going to decide if this policy goes to the discussion phase, or if they say don't agree with the problem statement, they can reject the proposal. After the adoption phase that I was talking about, we have the discussion phase. Once the problem statement is adopted, we need to understand that the initiator has the document. The document is going to be submitted to the community. It's now going to be a document belonging to the community. At this particular time, we're going to start discussion on this particular policy. The chair has a very important role with regard to this. He has to monitor the discussion and to make a summary of all the contributions that have been brought with regard to the policy. Let's go a little bit lower. And depending on the summary, the initiator is going to edit their policy with regard to the feedback that has come from the community. After having edited it, we will see how the chair is going to assess this feedback. The chair is going to make a decision whether the proposal is mature to go to the next phase or not. Here, we've not yet started talking about consensus. The chair is going to decide if the proposal is mature. If it's mature, we are going to go into the review phase. On the contrary, we will take it back for discussions to try to improve the policy in question. We also need to understand that the chair, if he sees that the discussion is not going forward, he can also decide to drop the policy. But here, he still has to consult the community. And then it goes to the review phase. The review phase. The authors will ask for a staff impact analysis, and this is going to allow the community to discuss the policy, to refine the policy. So this staff impact analysis is going to enable the community to contribute to fine-tuning the policy. And here, the chair is going to monitor the discussion and make a summary with regard to the feedback, as the initiator is going to edit the policy with regard to the feedback from the community. After these discussions, the chair, it's only in a review phase, it's not the policy in review phase that is going to be presented to the PPM, public policy meeting. This is a very important thing to say here, because a policy that is not mature for review should remain on discussion list, but the one that is mature is going to be presented to the PPM, and is at this level that the chair is going to judge if we have a rough consensus or not. If at the PPM level we have a rough consensus, we go to the next phase. But if not, it's sent back to the review, or the chair can decide to return it for discussions. The following phase is the last call. Here, the chair is going to give the last opportunity to those who did not have an opportunity to bring their contribution. At this phase, we will see it in the next slide. It's just the major objections that are going to be taken into consideration. After the last call, the chair is going to summarize and give his recommendation to the board and submit the policy to the board. The board will decide whether to ratify the policy or not. If it does not ratify it, it's going to send it back to the chair to resolve the issue, and if it's ratified, it's going to be implemented and it's going to become active. What we need to understand from this diagram is that we have 4 phases. And what is important for us is the adoption and the review phase, and the fact that when the problem statement is adopted, the document becomes a document of the working group. We're now going to go to the rough consensus. How can the chair determine if we have a rough consensus?
The first slide, please. The first slide.
On this slide, we're going to talk about the chair can determine if there is a rough consensus. When the policy is being discussed, we have major contributions, major objections, and minor objections. In case of minor objections, the working group is going to try to resolve the issues. If these issues cannot be resolved, given that it's a minor objection, we are going to notice that the adopted policy we're going to see if the adopted policy is going to have more advantages than disadvantages. If those who have minor objections believe that implementing it has more advantages than disadvantages, then we are going to have a rough consensus. But if you don't have minor objections, there's a rough consensus. Major objections right now. These objections is when the member of the working groups believe that the implementation of this policy is going to have a major impact on the community. And if there is a major objection, the community is going to try to resolve these major objections. In the event where this major objection is resolved, we will have consensus. On the contrary, the chair can decide that if they cannot be resolved and saying that it's going to have a big impact on the community, there's no consensus, so the policy is going to die. So it's based on this criteria that we believe the chair is going to arrive at judge if we have a rough consensus or not. On this diagram, here we are talking about the working group operation. As you noticed, currently within the PDP we have two co-chairs. In this policy, we suggest that there be a chair and a vice chair. The chair, his role is to monitor, to consult, and to moderate the working group. The vice chair is going to help the chair in administrative tasks, but the chair can also delegate a certain number of responsibilities to the vice chair. So as you can see, the participants within the working group are going to bring their contributions, whether major or minor, and the chair is going to request a staff impact analysis. We talked about minor objections and major objections, but you can also assess these comments and say if these comments are appropriate, either appropriate or minor, out of scope, or not timely. Meaning that it was not done within the proposed time frame, and the chair can decide that a participant brings contributions. If a participant is not contributing to the advancement of the policy at this particular time, the chair can suspend the postings of this member to remove but the person can continue receiving emails, only that he or she cannot participate in the discussions. Now we're going to go to the election of the chair, the last diagram. That's the election of the chair and the vice chair. The chair is elected. We've not done major changes here. The changes that were brought is if the chair resigns, or if he cannot participate in Afrinic meeting, if he cannot attend at least one Afrinic meeting per year, he will be relieved of his duties, and a new chair is going to be elected during the next PPM. If the chair resigns, the vice chair will become the interim vice chair up to the next PPM. At this particular time, at this particular level rather, we would like to say that the vice chair has not been confirmed. Elections are going to take place in the next PPM. The same rules for the vice chair. If he cannot participate in at least one PPM per year, he will be relieved, he or she will be relieved of his or her duties, and a new one will be elected. Kindly zoom in.
There is down. Can you zoom out? No, can you zoom out, please? Okay. 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 Si le vice-chair,
if the vice chair
démissionne,
resigns, the chair is going to choose another vice chair from within the community. And as I was saying, the chair is not in a position to, a vice chair is not able to participate in at least one meeting, another one will be chosen. There's something else I would like to say. In the event that both the chair and the vice chair resign, the CEO is going to choose an interim chair, and in the next PPM we will elect a new chair. So when there is a resignation, we will have a meeting for choosing the new chair. Thank you very much for your attention, your questions and comments with regard to this.
Thank you for the comprehensive presentation, and now we are opening the mic for question and comment. Please queue up on the line, please.
Thank you. As far as I can see, this is mainly a documentation process that you've gone through to document what already happens to a large extent, which I thought worked all right at the moment. You're also changing the concept of the two co-chairs into a chair and a vice chair. And what you're really doing is removing the possibility of two co-chairs reaching consensus over where there is consensus. And I don't like that. Then there's a section on duplicate processes. So you're trying to avoid duplicate processes, which I understand, but there's a very easy get-out clause. So you're not actually going to achieve that either. I don't still really, therefore, understand what this policy process is actually trying to achieve at the end of the day.
Okay, I will reply. Actually, the initiators of this policy proposal acknowledge that there is improvement to make to the current process. The main goal is to make, to allow proposal to move forward, to allow the chair, to give the chair a kind of guidelines to gauge consensus. Because the current PDP does not have provision for how exactly we gauge consensus, what is the process in the decision making, and also the operation of the working group. What kind of indicator do we have to measure the input from the participants? That's the kind of improvement we are making. And also, what happened when a chair resigned or a co-chair, actually, one of the co-chair resigned? It happened. It has happened. It may happen again. So what do we do exactly? So we are trying to bring some improvement, and we are open to receive comment from the floor. Thank you.
I wanted also to add that I actually agree. We are not saying that what is being currently done is bad. It's just like an improvement we are trying to make. And if the community suggests that this policy could be an accompanying document to the current policy, we are open to that suggestion also, just like you said.
Okay, moving forward, so Christian.
Christian Bope for the record. I think I will not say I support or I do not support, but I think after 10 years, Afrinic is involved. Like the policy we are using today is old, and I think we all notice some problem we need to fix. I think proposing this idea where we have to review our policy to see what needs to be correct, I think is a good thing. I remember in the past there was a very big discussion where some people were saying, well, why don't we add an annex document to the existing policy instead of coming up with a new policy? I think that one. I think for that one should be the committee to decide whether we need to consider this one as a annex document on the existing policy, or we consider this one as a new policy we will consider. For me, I think I will keep my mind open, and let's see how the discussion will go. But for this point, I think this is time to review our PDP after 10 years. Thank you.
My name is Christian from Nigeria. I think this is a very good approach. The only concern I have here is try to study the flow chart, and I think there are so much loop, because if we are talking about reviewing the current policy we are using on PDP, we should also take cognizance of timing, because if we look at what the proposal is talking about, there are so much hands to hands, this to this, you see so much loop. So I think there will be a timing issue, which is very important, because whatever thing we're doing, we should look at what time, how do you consider the timing. It's very important. You know, because you look at the diagram, just because it's so much cumbersome, so we can't really see it well. There are so much loop. So we look at the timing, it's very important. So we don't just accept something at the end of the day. There'll be too much. It will become, I don't know, it's not really, I wanted to say like democratic, but it becomes so much boring that, you know, you have to loop and loop and loop and loop and loop and loop over it. So just look at the timing, but the structure, I think, is not bad. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. Actually, I don't know if we can still, you can display the first diagram, please. The first slide. Le visual, en fait. Yes, the first, the other one, the one, yeah, the big one. The flow chart, yes. No, the big one, the one which is not part of the, yes, this one. Okay, you can see on the side that we have actually put the duration of each phases. We have actually put the duration of each phases. For example, the discussion about the problem statement, whether or not, when it's submitted to the working group, whether or not we want to discuss this policy, is 2 weeks maximum. You see? And for the discussion phase, we also have a time, a duration for the review phase also. So there are phases. I just didn't talk about them during my presentation, but there are phases. And like I said, when the chair noticed that a policy is not going forward, he can take a decision to move it back to a previous phase or to drop the policy. So that's we will also put this this diagram on the website. Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm Ousmane Moussa Tessa from Wakren. I will speak in French, please.
I would like to thank the initiators of these reform that come at an opportune moment today. We have again seen the lack of precision with regard to how we take our decisions. It's a very good thing. After 10 years, people reflect on how to do things. Nevertheless, you will agree with me that such a document should be actually informed by diagrams. So you did a great job. And what I would like is that these ideas should be written in texts, first of all. And once they've been put in text form, we can now give this diagram to facilitate, to understand the process. So, because we need a text and then the diagram. Mark.
Yes, thank you. I guess one of the things about
Je crois que
and English people like guidelines that will guide them in a particular direction. What you're putting down here are rules, where if you break them, there can be consequences. And that can be quite a harsh thing. And I prefer guidelines to rules. I would prefer this to be a guideline to how the PDP should work, as opposed to actually being a PDP written down process, which now becomes a rule rather than a guideline.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
May I?
Okay, let's go ahead, Sean.
Okay, thank you. This is Sheon Ojedeji. I work for Federal University of Ekiti. First, I think we should recognize that because we are 10 years, does not mean that we must edit our policy. It's not about the number of years. It's about the fact that some things need to be updated. So even if next year we feel something needs to be updated, we have to do so. Good work. That's a good first attempt. I just think there's a lot of procedural stuff in that may not be necessary. So I like to suggest some things that I think you should take from the current draft and put in the current document and produce a new draft. The section that talks about consensus, I'd like you to pick that. Please, keep the co-chair. Don't create chair and vice chair. Apart from the fact that co-chairs are supposed to follow up with themselves, it's also important that we have consensus among two people. Let's not have one person making that very difficult decision. We have a very complicated and interesting community, as you all know. Then the roles that you defined for the chair in your current draft, I'd like you to then define that for the co-chairs. Let's start from there. And then the current PDP, which allows a document to go for last call and then for ratification, that is consensus in support.
should now have the option for consensus to abandon. So I think that's just what we need to add to it. So those 4 things, pick the consensus section of your current draft, keep the co-chair in the current draft, add the roles that you currently defined in your current draft to the current document, and add a consensus process to abandon a a policy. I think once we have that, I think we should be fine. And let's just not add all those processes that you were adding. It's too cumbersome. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, Sean, I did not understand. Are you saying that you don't want us to add all those phases we talked about?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just one phase. It's the adoption phase that we added to the process.
No, you have a number of steps that you've added.
Okay.
Yeah, those are not necessary.
Okay.
Just have perhaps office, let me not waste the time. I probably will just follow up with your office.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. Just to encourage you for the good work done, I think this move is going to address a lot of issues we're encountering in the policy adoption process. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm back again, Christian. Just to iterate on what Shengu just finished saying now, because I forgot to mention that when you give room for vice chair instead of having co-chair, you are trying to make one supreme, and the chair now sees himself as the Lord, and he can take some crazy decision that might not be nice. So let's leave the co-chair so that they will know that they are working hand in hand, so nobody will see himself as supreme over the other person. So thank you.
Can I? I would like to answer this question.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Actually, the intent of having one chair assisted administratively by a vice chair is to give or to have as at the position of chair one of the senior member of our community, of the working group. And actually, there is provision for appeal. That makes very difficult, I should say impossible, for the chair to declare himself a lord. It's not possible. Anyone can make an appeal. Even after a board decision, anyone from the community, anyone from the working group can make an appeal. So that's not, the intent is not to give the overall responsibility to the chair, no. Hope it is clear. Thanks.
Okay, moving forward. Right.
Christophe Motima, DRC. I had 2 concerns vis-à-vis to the summary that you put in place. I heard you talk about the absence. Sometimes you say when the chair is absent, one, because you cancelled for the other, what may happen? And you raised the issue of the resignation. Tell us what may happen when once the chair or the vice chair at the same time resign. There's no accuracy of information for that. And you talk as well for absence, what may happen when the chair is absent. But actually, I think in a normative text, we talk about the absence, and there we have to precise the reason for the absence. But maybe, I don't know, I do not have any proof for that, but I didn't listen some precision for the reasons that can push the president to be absent. Sometimes, in case of force majeure, something may happen in a very unpredictable way, for not by his own will. it may happen something and putting him in a force majeure case, but you simply say for the absence, and it's better to go back to that, because in all text is well precise. We say when the president is sick, for example, this and that can happen, but if it's a earthquake, we cannot say that he's absent, because we had one unpredictable situation that pushed him to be absent. Maybe you may have another text that fine-tuning this aspect of matter, because when there is an absence, you see, that can lead him to a sanction.
Nous avions prévu cet aspect.
Yes, we try to provide this provision if, for example, two people, chair and vice chair, resign, because here in the diagram nothing is clear, but it's well provided. But regarding the absence, effectively for the chair or co-chair, we try to, there is 2 sessions in a year, you see. So when he's absent 2 times, how will he be able to understand what is going on? Because it's him who is in the first position, you see, to lead the action. So we have 2 ppm in a year. When you're absent for the 2 or for the both, you see, sessions, that will be another problem. But effectively, we have this force majeure case in the explanation for tax developments. But here, you cannot have 2 times force majeure. No, in that moment you're not available. But anyway, we can go back to find out different possibilities for a remote participation or remote attendance for that, so that in a second time he can be present, maybe. I wanted to add my voice to say during my presentation, I said if the chair or the co-chair are not, or they resign at the same moment, and the CO can now try to nominate ad interim chair, you see, somebody who can be there just to bridge the gap, so that in the next time or next coming PPM, when will be the election, we can now nominate, he'll be assisted by the staff anyway.
Take the last comment from the gentleman on the side, please.
Please, Chair, there is one question pending. From Mr. Ousmane Ouakrane. I would speak in French, as he has raised the concern in French. Monsieur Ousmane, nous avons en fait le test qui est en ligne.
Osman, we have a trial online. The diagram is just simply in terms of illustration, but the test or trial is online on Afrinic website. And in the section policy development, you can have this, to have a look on this trial, just for question of simplicity, and we are aware and conscious that the many innovation and procedures that have been introduced, as you can see. That's why we try to compile and bring you out this diagram in a very schematic way. But you can get the test on the website of Afrinic regarding
you, and we take due action. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Je réponds au nom de Abdel Jalil.
My name is Abdel Jalil. Thank you very much. Abdel Jalil Bashar Bon. I'm from Chad, member of the community. I would like to thank the whole team for this wonderful job. When an organization starts growing, we need to remodel it. I think either whether we go co-chair or vice chair, I don't think it has a problem. But we need to leave the chair and the vice chair, and to clearly describe their roles and responsibilities. Whatever name you're going to take, you can take whatever name you want, but you clearly have to define each person's role. In this particular policy, you also talked about the working groups. When there are resignations, you talked about the CEO taking over. If the CEO is the one who is going to decide alone, does this cause problems? Do we open up to the community also to have their contribution? Also propose some diversity with regard to chair and vice chair. Because in the mailing list, everything is in English, so we need to take these things into consideration. Thank you.
I mean, countries also change constitutions time after time. They review them, make amendments. I think last year we actually looked at the bylaws and made some amendments to the bylaw. And I think it's high time that we also looked at the PDP. And I think this policy would help us at least fix some of the issues that are currently broken within the current process. So I support this policy, and I also support that we should at least improve it. Thank you.
Merci. Bonjour tout le monde.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ibrahim from the regulatory agency in Niger. Through the presentation that has been done here, I would like to encourage you from the bottom of my heart. You did a wonderful job. If you take into consideration the contributions that have been done, this is going to serve the community. So, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. On va donner aux panélistes l'opportunité de résumer les discussions et dire leurs derniers mots.
I would like to say that about both chair and vice chair resigning, I want to clarify. We are not saying that the CEO will lead the session, no. The CEO will lead the appointment of an interim chair, and this interim chair will be assisted by staff. Okay. I also thank for the comment on diversity. So overall, what I will say is the intent of this policy proposal is not to create confusion or create division. No, not at all. We are willing to empower the community, to empower the working group. The intent is the working group, not the chair or the vice chair or the two chairs. No, the focus is on the working group, because as we have highlighted in the proposal, our working group is bottom up, and we should always make sure that the last decision is taken from the floor, is taken from the community. So that is why there is an appeal procedure. Anyone can, at any time almost, make an appeal to any decision. And we thank the comments and feedbacks. Thanks.
Je voulais apporter juste une précision.
Wanted to say something to our colleague from Chad. When we talk about the working group, we mean the community. We mean the community. I think it's a little bit clear. It's within this community that, from within the community, that the CEO is going to choose an interim chair. Thank you very much. We thank you all for your comments. I'm sorry, I'm changing between English and French. Thank you very much for all your comments. They will be taken into consideration. A certain number of changes will be done on the proposal to improve it. And we kindly ask you to bring your comments also on the list to improve this proposal. Thank you very much in advance.
So with that remark, we thank the author for this proposal and for the discussion and for agreeing to accommodate all this suggestion within the proposal to improve it. So our decision is to take it back to the mailing list for further improvement, and we hope to see them again on the next meeting. Thank you very much. So this is the end of our policy proposals. We still have two agenda items: the BDB co-chair election and the open mic session. So we'll start with the BDB election. We will hand this to the election committee. So floor is yours.
Thank you, Sami. Can I please call the chair of the nominations committee? That's
Okay, good evening, everyone. The NOMCOM membership was appointed by the board and announced on February 22nd with 4 members. Okay. John Walubengo from Kenya, Mustafa Benjama from Tunisia. We also have Lucky Mashelia from South Africa, who is the board liaison on NOMCOM, and myself from Nigeria. On 17th of March, the call for nomination for the Policy Development Working Group co-chair was announced for 1 seat that is open, and nomination closed on 22nd of April. NOMCOM received only 1 nomination, and the name of the nominee is Adewale Ajao from Nigeria. He is currently a co-chair, and I think his tenure expires today. At this point, I will hand over to the election committee to take over from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Wale. So, as you have been informed, we have just 1 candidate for the Policy Development Working Group co-chair that is now vacant as of now for the next 2 years. No, it's not vacant for the next 2 years. It's vacant and the tenure is for the next 2 years. So that candidate is Dewole. He's unopposed. I would like to call Dewole to come and speak to the community so that even though he's unopposed, he should convince them why they should put him back for the next 2 years. Dewole, can I give you 1 minute to speak to the community here and tell them why they should put you back in that hot seat for the next 2 years? Thank you, Dewole.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. My name is Dewolia Jao. A year ago, I fell into this position. It's been an interesting year with ups and downs, getting to know the community and the policy development space. I believe, given a chance to serve in this role for another 2 years, we'll together be able to improve the processes. As some of you would be aware, I have made some steps, sometimes seen as missteps, but in a genuine attempt to improve the policy development environments that we have in Afrinic. So I would appreciate your vote, and I promise to do my best in the position. Thank you.
Thank you, Dewole. According to the process to elect PDWG co-chairs, it is supposed to be a simple show of hands. And this is what we're going to do now. There is one candidate. So the question I will ask perhaps is, who thinks Dewole should not be reappointed? Can I see your hands up? Oh, yes. Was your hand up? It was like this. Oh, all right. Who thinks Dewole should be reappointed for the next 2 years? Put your hand up. Not me. Thank you so much. And who, who has no comment? Oh, Owen. Thank you. I do believe that Dewole gets back into his hot seat for the next 2 years. Congratulations, Dewole, and you can get back up.
Thank you.
So, okay, our last session will be the open mic. Please put the presentation, the main one, on the screen. In the open mic, we have one presentation from Madhvi. So please put that presentation, and Madhvi, please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, why is this? Okay, all right. So I'm here after, I think, 2 years to present on the Policy Implementation Experience Report. And the purpose of this presentation is to provide feedback to the members participating in this meeting, as well as the community, in regard to the salient observations, issues that we experienced, or things that we did not see are documented, okay, while we have been evaluating resource requests from the Afrinic members. So the way I've put down the slides is where the text is available in the policy manual or in guidelines. Then I stated the section, and then I we'll talk about the issues, and if we've taken any actions, I'll briefly state them. So since we're talking about the policies in here, we do have a very large pool of policy authors that we have seen offering policies or co-offering policies, and I hope that you're still in the room and you may take some action afterwards. So the first one, in our Consolidated Policy Manual, so CPM is Consolidated Policy Manual, is available on our website. So section 5.4 regarding the soft landing policy. So in this section, it's mentioned that members can get additional blocks of IP addresses when they have used at least 90% of all their previous allocations or assignments. One of the issues that we've noted, and it's only been roughly 2 months since we reached soft landing, is some of the members are unable to meet the 90% utilization that the policy asks for. And they also cannot use what is available in their allocations in the new service deployments. They have various reasons. Some of their new services require them to give, for example, a /21 to their upstream to be configured in the network so that they can provision their customers. That's one of the examples. And also we have new deployments, and we are asking them for the 90% usage. So some of the actions that we've taken is you have not reached 90% usage. Once you reach them, please come and ask for more resources. The previous policy, the IPv4 allocation policy, had another clause to additional resource requests that is not in the soft landing policy at the moment. All right? So this is one of the issues that we've noted. And yeah, the second one in the CPM section 5.4.6.2, Afrinic resources are for Afrinic service region, and any use outside the region should be solely in support of connectivity back to the Afrinic region. The issue is we've had resource requests with out of region usage as needs, and they have been rejected. In CPM section 5.5.1.2.3, there's a statement. So the resource members must show an existing efficient utilization of IP addresses from the upstream provider. Justification may be based on a combination of immediate need and existing usage. The interpretation of this, at that time, or still here, is that IP addresses are allocated or assigned to our members based on their justified needs. So when they've come for more resources, what we observed was resources that were obtained, based on justifications they provided, are now originating from the Afrinic outside the Afrinic service region. And when questioned, they had numerous reasons, for example, high bandwidth cost or DDoS attacks mitigation. And the host masters, what they have, and what we've also noted is that in initial requests, fraudulent information were provided. Okay? And so the host masters, the actions that we've had to take is we've stopped the evaluation of any additional resource requests, and we gave the member a time period to redress the situation. If they don't submit a change request, which shall be evaluated because the registration services agreement clearly mandates us to do that. If they don't, or even they don't resolve this issue that we've noted, then Afrinic may resort to reclamation of resources. We have another case, the CPM section 6.5.1.1, and this is regarding IPv6. So, for the allocation, so for all the LIR, for all our operators that fall under LIR category, ISPs, mobile operators, research and education networks. So to qualify for the initial allocation of IPv6, they could show that a reasonable plan for making /48 IPv6 assignments to end sites in the region within 12 months. Same for assignment. The policy states that they should announce the IPv6 PI space within 12 months. After that period, if not announced, the assigned IPv6 PI space should be reclaimed and returned to the free pool of Afrinic. We have many LIR members that did not register a single /48 as PI assignment, so they're not policy compliant. We ran some statistics regarding PI assigned space. 134 PI assignments are not announced at the moment. So our request to the community is to advise us, shall Afrinic reclaim these announced IPv6 prefixes, or what other alternatives we can offer them, especially because we've now reached IPv4 exhaustion, so we're in soft landing phase, and we'll soon see a depletion of IPv4, and the members may have no choice to deploy IPv6. So the unannounced space, the analysis went back to all members that got an IPv6 prefix since 2005. Regarding the Anycast resource assignments, we had organizations that can get, the policy allows resource members to get resources for the purpose of Anycast assignments. And we've had requests where the Anycast assignment was mostly the information given was outside the region, and those requests were rejected. There's a policy, the no reverse NS assigned. It's not in the CPM, Ernest, but it's on the website, so Ernest will be putting it in CPM shortly. That Afrinic may remove reverse delegation of any LIR's allocation beginning 12 months from the date of the reminder. So that policy was mandating our members, the LIR members, to first register the usage of the IP address space, and then they shall be able to add the reverse DNS. So the policy was implemented, and as from the date of the implementation, no LIR could register their reverse DNS on the WHOIS database without registering the assignments. But before the policy implementation, we had noted that there were 127 members that were not compliant. So as part of the policy implementation, Afrinic reached out to those non-compliant members to get them to redress the situation. And we were also proactive because we were detecting the error messages that some of those non-compliant members were getting when they were trying to register new reverse DNS. So we reached out to them, showed them why they should comply with the policy and how they should comply to the policy. So the latest report, and it's been more than 12 months since the policy was implemented, so we have 38 of those members that are still not compliant, okay? and that is, their domain objects do not have a related assignment. Okay, so we're requesting the community to advise us. The policy says we may remove the reverse DNS from the WHOIS database. So can you give us some guidance? Do we give them another chance, or shall we go and remove the reverse DNS from the WHOIS database? There's another section of the policy of the CPM regarding temporary resource allocation and assignments. So in there, we allocate temporary space to organizations requesting for some addresses, especially if they're having meetings. The AFNOG conference, the AIS meeting usually get IP resources under this policy. So we've noted, like we've been thinking, what happens when AFRINIC is in phase 2, where the limitation is a /24 to /22 of IP address space? Or what if we don't have any space available? Okay, because some of the requests that we receive, they are at least the /20 worth of IPv4. So can you please advise us as to whether this policy can be adjusted to address the problem, or because as far as I know, there's no policy that mandates AFRINIC to reserve some space. I'm thinking of, we only have a /12 of reserve space for future use. Okay, that's the only reservation, and we have the reservation for the critical infrastructure policy. That's all the reservations we have at the moment. We do have another issue regarding the AS numbers. We are receiving requests from members who do not have 2BGP peers. Okay? The ASN policy clearly states that they should either have a unique routing policy, be a multi-home site, or showing that they're planning to multi-home within a reasonably short time. This is not what those members could qualify against in their request. Okay? And so far, we have rejected those ASN requests as we found them not compliant with the policy. Regarding mergers and acquisitions, we have a guideline, okay? A guideline that AFRINIC put up, okay? Because we knew that mergers and acquisitions are a business reality, okay? Now, what we've seen is we have requests that an organization ask us, there has been a reorganization, you know, they no longer providing the services under which, you know, the holding company asked, you know, they made them, you know, go get IP addresses, you're managing this network or this service. And during the reorganization, those rights are moving to another company within the same group, like that's what we call sister companies, okay? And we do have 2 of those at the moment. I don't have a precedence for that. And the hostmasters were telling, you know, we agreed that we do not have reorganization catered for in any policy. You know, we do have the transfer policy that will be in force in phase 2 of the soft landing phase, but we do not have a guideline or a policy that addresses reorganization. Okay? We could perhaps take it up operationally, update the guideline, but if the community so wishes to propose a policy that addresses such instances, then they can come forward. Okay, that's it. I think there have been quite a few issues that we noted regarding policy and also absence of any policies to guide us. I'm available to answer your questions if you have any. Yes, Owen.
Owen DeLong, Akamai. I'm going to ask you to work backwards through the slides a little bit because I can't remember the full stack. There. Nope. Go back to the ASN one.
This one. ASN, yeah.
Yep. That's the first one that I had issue with. In my opinion, if their upstream is demanding that they have a public ASN and they're doing BGP with even their single upstream, that does actually constitute a unique routing policy. So they should be considered in compliance as far as I'm concerned.
Sorry. You're meaning that the unique routing policy caters for an
Yes.
organization having a single AS.
In fact, in my opinion,
Getting AS with one upstream.
Yes. In my opinion, that is exactly the intent of the single route, the distinct routing policy clause, is to enable that situation.
Okay, we know that.
If we can go back one more slide,
Mm-hmm.
if we can have the slides visible.
Okay.
There we go.
Which one?
Okay, that one. It says you may remove. I would say send them another final warning and then, yeah, do it. One more back. It seems like you're doing the right thing there as far as I'm concerned, so I don't have any issue.
These are the V6.
Yeah, if they're not announcing it and the policy says they're supposed to require to announce it, in fact, I think the policy specifically says that after that period, if not announced, the address space should be reclaimed by Afrinic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what more guidance you need from the community. The community's already put in the policy that you should reclaim the address space. Reclaim it.
Okay.
And then finally on the temporary allocations, I don't see any reason those should be special. When we're out of space, then if nothing else, AFNOG should take a leadership on deploying a V6 only network and maybe using NAT64 if people still need some sort of V4 access. But yeah, I don't see any reason to make the temporary allocations special in any way. And if there's no space for anybody else, there doesn't need to be any space for them either.
Thank you, Owen. Yes, Mark?
I actually wrote down the points rather than having to go through the slides. So when it came to that ASN, I would add the other bit that ASNs are now 32-bit. And if you give a 32-bit ASN, we've got plenty of those, I think. So I would tend to certainly be lenient, and yeah, I like the excuse of this is a unique routing problem, and they need an ASN, so go with it. The meeting space, we keep using the same meeting space year after year. I wouldn't be quite as harsh. I would say, well, then properly allocate it permanently. Certainly the Afrinic, the address space that's used at these meetings, rather than one day turn around and say, oh dear, there's no IPv4. I just think that would be the easiest thing to do. In the reclaiming of the IPv6, you conflute a little bit between IPv4 and IPv6, which I don't quite understand why, but I would go along with the principle of don't bother reclaiming the space from the users. A gentleman to my left said it actually says Afrinic may reclaim it, which also means Afrinic may not reclaim it, I think.
Okay. Thank you. We'll get the slides.
I've got ears. But it would be very nice if you to publish all of those questions onto a mailing list somewhere.
Okay. And should any one of you want to address any policy issues, you know who you should address. You should contact Ernest. He's the one who will go out of his way to help you write down a proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, no, the floor is open for any comment, any questions or suggestion maybe for improvement.
So open policy microphone. For those who like to keep quiet on the mailing lists, there's a mic right here. Speak up.
Yeah, since there's nobody coming to the mic.
Ben, I talk in French. Il va falloir que quelqu'un parle quand même, donc on ne peut pas.
You know, we need somebody to say something. We cannot conclude this meeting without, you see, not saying. I'm here to congratulate you for this heavy job. Well done. Thank you. And wish you all the best for the next steps. Thank you.
John, please.
May I? Okay, thank you very much. This is Shehu again for the record. Just a few questions. Let me see, a few questions and comments. The first one, in relation to the last /8, I understand that we have already allocated 2/13 and 1/14. There's a section of the soft landing policy that seems to allude to the fact that the resource should be used in the region. So I want to understand how Afrinic has been applying that policy, and have they been noticing any out-of-region use so far?
Do you mean out-of-region applications?
Yes.
Madhvi, maybe can you repeat the question? I believe Madhvi will be best placed to answer that. Just repeat the question, Sean.
Yeah, so the question is, the /8 allows for in-region use. And based on what was said, 2/13s and 1/14 has been allocated. So my question is, have you been noticing out-of-region use on those? And if that is happening, what's the process to withdraw those policies and those spaces in case?
On the latest 2/13s issued, we haven't checked those because they were only issued in April and May. Usually the check happens when that member comes for additional resources, then we do the check. So just to give you a brief overview regarding what we do, new member request, if the organization is domiciled outside the Afrinic service region, we can't even look at the application. And if they domiciled in the Afrinic service region, and the IP addressing plan shows out of region use, then we will reject. All right, and for resource actual members, when usually we don't do audits regularly, so when they come for additional resources, we look at the allocations, how they are used, where are they announced, okay. And then we look at the IP addressing plan. So if there's anything that we note is, it goes against the needs that they provided at the time of submitting the request, then we may take action. Yeah.
So thank you very much. Just as a follow-up to what has been said, I just want to say Afrinic staff may want to consider looking at actively checking those space, because since it was actually written that it should be used for out of region, for in region, That means that we don't need to wait for when they come to request for another resource before we actually check occasionally, to the extent that it does not really cost much of resources. The other comment I want to make is in relation to proposals, especially to the soft landing, to the shutdown policy proposals. I want to suggest to the authors to really consider the feedback that has been given on the floor and honorably withdraw the proposal. So one way or the other, at least it's not necessarily that it's not seen as us discussing it at the level of proposal. We should continue to the discussion, but let's not discuss it at the level of proposal. It's for the interest of the community, and it's for the interest of the entire internet community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen. I just want to make a comment on a code of conduct, maybe a proposal in, the way I think we add value to dialogue. Personally, I believe in holding governments accountable, but more so I believe in holding myself as a citizen responsible. And in the earlier part of these discussions, I felt very, a little bit out of place and out of sorts with certain behavior. And I would want to urge that in many meetings I have been to, there is a code of conduct, especially when things are being driven. We have a moderator and we have processes. I think going forward, maybe we should think of a way of holding ourselves responsible so that in meetings like this, especially where we're discussing policy, which is dialogue essentially, to have the community air its voices for productivity, we should be able to hold ourselves or be held responsible to placing our opinions and respecting the opinions of others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Okay, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you. Sunday Folayan, Chair of the Afrinic.
Mike, please, sir.
Sunday Folayan, Chair of the Afrinic Board. The speaker that just spoke just before me alludes to us holding ourselves accountable for how we want to hold others accountable. I think what she's referring to, I would amplify. That is the fact that the chair is speaking in this, a co-chair is speaking, and somebody turns the mic on within the community and is trying to talk. And the chair is saying, hold on, and the person continues to talk. Those types of behaviors we should guide against. One. Number two, we have code of conduct, which to a large extent should guide our behavior. But at times, it's difficult when people say, call somebody to order using the code of conduct. But the method of demanding that the code be used itself is not proper. I think we should begin to send very uniform language to ourselves, both in terms of process and procedure. A shout does not hold another shout accountable. And I would want to appeal, it's the responsibility of the co-chairs to maintain order within and during all policy-related discussions and activities. And the chair of the board is expected to do this in other fora. But I hesitate, and I probably I've never called anybody to order publicly in that regard. One expects better decorum so that we can have a more civil community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, we've got 3 minutes until we really have to close. Quickly, I just wanted to give a reminder that there is a code of conduct that we're supposed to hold ourselves accountable to in discussions in room and on the mailing lists. You should respect others' opinion, you should respect the agenda and the timing. But I'd like to hear from the community really. What do you think we should do when someone decides to hog the microphone, or 50 people decide, oh, we need to continue this conversation even though the agenda says it's 30 minutes, we will drag it for an hour and a half? Well, how would you suggest that the co-chairs deal with situations like that? Do we get physical, ask people out of the room, lift them out? Next, please.
Okay, merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abijudi from Bajat. What I would like to propose, a lot of people do not know how to give policy proposals. What like you is to the co-chair and the PDP team to organize video conferences to train the community, and this will be a video conference with all the languages of Africa, and all the documents should be translated, because this community is a larger community. We should look at this as a larger community. We are all Africans, and we should all stay Africans, and so we need to organize video conferences to involve the community, how to propose policies and how to involve. So, for instance, what we need to do, the different steps we need to go through for these proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Alan.
Hello, Alan Barrett. I'd like to respond very quickly to that comment about translation. It's certainly an issue. In these meetings, we managed to get 2-language translation. I wish we could do more. We're exploring ways of doing more, but there are constraints. Also, it would be nice to have more rooms with translation. And also on translation of documents, some of our documents are already translated into languages other than English. For example, the registration service agreement is available in both French and Arabic. The English one is the one which has legal validity. The other ones are just to read, to understand. But if it were ever taken to court, the English version would be the authoritative one. We have also made a commitment this year that we want to translate more of our documents. I don't know how many we will get to, but we do believe it's important to translate documents like the PDP, the policies, the registration service agreement, the bylaws. We will do it as fast as we can, and we'll get to at least 1 or 2 of them this year. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. David, go ahead.
Hi, David Delario. Just want to make a quick comment that if there's a theme for this meeting today, it's deregistration. We have deregistration threat in the shutdown policy, the anti-shutdown policy. We have deregistration threats coming with the resource review policy, and the latest presentation from Madvi showing that when they review additional location, they also threaten to deregister resources, and even IPv6 is being threatened to be deregistered, which that one is a little bit strange since it doesn't really make sense. But that will be the overall theme of this Policy Development Day, is deregistration. That's what I got from today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Okay, Vimala?
Thank you. So for the gala invitation of tonight, please go to the registration. There is the test desk, the invitation are over there, and they will give you all the information regarding the shuttles. Thank you. Yes, they will give you all the information regarding the shuttles transportation at the test desk, up at the registration desk. They are the one managing the invitation. They just gave us the communication. So they are waiting for you. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for waiting through a very long day for your comments and contributions. We will continue our discussions on the mailing lists. Have a wonderful evening.
Though I hope to get more than my 15 minutes, it's the other time that counts.